Hmm.
Oh, no. Oh.
What do we got here? Thought Slime doesn't understand individualism or collectivism. Oh no. Oh no. Back alley philosophy. Let's have a look at this channel for a second. Your constitution, your constitutional right to free pudding. We already live in anarchy. What? Filthy heretic debunked on the alt-right. What is the alliance of the libertarian left? It's hard to get like a beat on what. Oh, black propaganda matters. Uh-oh. Yay! Another. Well, I guess this is a scaly YouTube channel now. Oh wait. There's Hitler. Are all statists Nazis? How to argue libertarian organization. Nihilism is tyranny? What? Oh no! Oh, okay.
Seriously.
Now that I've poisoned the well, let's move back into this. I need to pause my playlist because that's just going to get in the way. Or I just make it really quiet. So that I can't. Yeah. Holy shit. Alright, let's do it. Let's do it.
Folks, it's because they're bootlicking servants of the billionaire. Seriously, folks, it's because they're bootlicking servants of the billionaire class who disdain institutions like PBS for having the unmitigated temerity to educate the filthy pores without at least having the decency to charge them for it.
So, look.
I love it. I love it. Every single furry avatar anti-left video starts with them going as if like, I hate my job. Oh wait, it's an actual furry? What?
Looks like I'm in that
It's a spaceman furry. Okay.
awkward position again where there's nothing better to talk about, and consequently I've been reduced to picking some of the lowest hanging fruit, scraping the very bottom of the encrusted shit barrel. For those who are unaware, Thought Slime is a self-proclaimed anarcho-communist, but if you actually listen to his nonsensical rambling, which could generously be considered a commentary, he most definitely is not an anarchist, and it's dubious as to whether
Oh, okay, hold on a second.
commentary. He
Like, maybe even if you have the moral high ground in the gun control debate, it's pretty unreasonable to ask people to accept the reality of school shootings. Maybe your gun advocacy could focus on stopping that rather than mocking people who are afraid of it. Yeah, gun control has a racist history. If you don't want gun control to happen, maybe you could offer a positive solution to the rampant gun violence that makes people want it. Just a thought. If the sum total of... Sorry, this is in the way.
Did you read that so quick that hurt my brain?
What?
Fucking hell.
If the sum total of your response is that it's a risk we have to take, I don't think it's unreasonable for victims of... You should see me actually reading a book without talking.
I'm like sitting here thinking, going, right, slow down.
I'm skim reading it. Like, I'm not taking all of it in. I'm just trying to find out the connection between what this guy's saying and what he's showing, which makes no sense to me. The sum total of your response is that it's a risk we have to take. I don't think that it's unreasonable for the victims of gun violence to conclude you don't entirely give a shit about them. Maybe take a long look in that deep dark mirror and ask yourself if you do. What has that got to do with anarchism?
most definitely
confused.
is not an anarchist, and it's dubious as to whether or not
This cuts both ways, though. We also have to own up to the fact that the rich are not lazy either. They just don't have this imposition placed on them upon them like the rest of us, and we should fight to have the same consideration, not because we're better, but because we're the same. That's what? What? Okay. That's perfectly consistent with anarchy. What the fuck are you talking about? Hard work is not a virtue; it's an imposition. Yep, 100%. Laziness and productivity are tools constructed by capitalist class to pacify us by making us either feeling A, shitty about ourselves, or B, like our investment in ourselves will vanish if the people around us are allowed to succeed. True. Like, this is like anti-capitalism, like 101.
he's even a communist. He's one of those people who identifies strongly with one end of the state-constructed left-right dichotomy solely because he identifies the other end of the false spectrum with traits which he associates with being something personally troubling.
Sorry. I didn't speed this guy up. He talks way too slow.
For him. Had issues
First-
with an authority figure early on, presumably in his life, which had these traits. Then another figure stepped in later on and told him these were political and that the way to get rid of what he perceives they stand for is to believe in a certain ideology. Oh, and
What? That's all just projection. Like, how is any of that true? Sorry, I'm just moving some shit around so I can do some stuff. But like, that I assume that he's going to bring up like examples of this later on. But other than like pure projection, yeah, sorry, I thought I might play that one.
this isn't me just being an armchair psychologist. He himself has said this.
I've worked a lot of shitty jobs where I've seen some pretty shitty labor conditions and some pretty shitty attitudes from people regarding those. But nothing really that bad has ever happened to me. I did grow up with a single mother, and she explained to me at a young age about the wage gap, and it was pretty infuriating to me as a 10-year-old boy. Still infuriating to me as an adult, but you never really feel the injustice of things as much as you do when you're a kid.
Well, at the very least, he's said things which can hint at this, which we can use to logically infer that this is the case.
Oh, so you don't have proof. You're just going to put something up on the screen which doesn't prove your point and just say that we can logically infer from that. But that's what's called a non sequitur, I think, is what they call it. That's a lovely smart word that you can add to your lexicon in order to sound smarter for your followers.
Regardless, the point is that Thought Slime is a mindless contrarian, and the only consistency in
Nothing that you've shown has proven that. And if you're going to base the entire rest of the video on this idea, then it's already debunked. I don't have to do anything. GG.
anything he argues is that it's contrary to what the media and politicians tell him are, quote, right-wing ideas up to the point where his positions begin to contradict themselves. For example, he believes that property rights are artificially constructed by the state through its monopoly on arbitration and have no objective basis for their existence, and consequently that voluntarists are not anarchists, but supports the formation of a monopoly on arbitration to enforce coercion against certain kinds of individual association he doesn't approve of ideologically, and only allow the associations he does approve of in society, which of course this dichotomy has no natural explanatory power and is functionally no different from a government. How he claims to have
Okay. A lot of words there. Let me break it down for you. This is what I talk about every fucking day. Okay? Objective reality versus subjective reality. Objective reality cannot be can't be communicated between individuals. We can only agree on what we believe objective reality is. Therefore, all things are subjective, and the agreement on what things mean as a society is what give those things value. Basically, he's basically doing the same thing I argue against every fucking time I get up onto a debate against a fundy or a ANCOM or someone who believes in a objective truth. People who are stuck in the fucking stuck behind by 2 fucking centuries and haven't learnt anything about dialectics, Hegel or Marxism. Like, it's a lot of words to describe a very simple thing. He's basically saying Thought Slime is wrong because he doesn't believe in objective truth. Effectively, at the end of the day. I could go further into it piece by piece to do that, but honestly, I've done that enough on this channel that I couldn't be fucking bothered. It was much quicker for me to just say, yeah, that's basically it. It's definitely word salad, yeah, it's supposed to sound smart. But it's objective. It's belief in objective truth versus subjective truth. Thought Slime, subjective truth. Furry spaceship, the furry astronaut, objective truth. So one can be used to actually create effective policy. The other is a faith-based enterprise and is irrelevant when it comes to coming up with like actual solutions to problems. Because at the end of the day, your objective truth or your belief in an objective truth, you can say whatever the fuck you want about it. You can believe in some sort of magic, invisible hand of the market, if you like, which a lot of ANCOMs do.
Have a so-called non-binary gender, but identifies as a male, or how he believes that forced...
What? No. He doesn't identify as a male. What are you talking about? He's non-binary. I think he's. I think this guy's conflating pronouns with gender, which is, considering the word salad he said earlier, right? I'm guessing he probably picked that up off of Wikipedia. Wikipedia's like a Wikipedia quote or like an essay somewhere, because like if this guy can't even tell the difference between gender and pronouns, then yeah. Maybe he's just reading someone else's script and adding his own shit in the side.
Confiscation of private property is justified based on an appeal to class identitarianism, then argues that it's
confiscation of private property, like we believe in the confiscation of private property to be redistributed amongst the people as per the need. Like they never talk about the second half of communism. Also, your premise from the start was that Thought Slime isn't communist, and then now you're just like quite literally talking about a communist ideal, the confiscation of private property and the dictatorship of the proletariat. So either he is consistent with communism and anarchy, or he isn't. Make up your mind.
Because everyone is the same and there are no class distinctions. Or, right here, how in his video about how supposedly the right, being anyone who disagrees with him, is attacking in...
Again. Please.
Individuality, he starts off his video defending PBS and government education, when it's a well-documented fact that government education is based on the Prussian model of teaching, a system which is developed specifically with the intention of destroying one's ability.
Government education is based on the Prussian model of teaching. Okay. The 21st century primary and secondary education in Germany, still and beyond, still embodies the legacy of the Prussian education system. Let's look this up, shall we? Why did he stop showing the Wikipedia page? Are we gonna go down some rabbit holes? Are we? I think we are. Outreach spread to other countries. Examples. In Austria, Prussian reforms in education spread quickly through Europe, particularly after the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars first allowed the system to be enhanced. Failed until the 1880s to introduce compulsory education. Basic consideration in terms of not used in German literature, which are humble respectively as the Russian reforms, but various basic controversies. 21st policy borrowing, the basic concept of a state-oriented and administered mass educational system is still not granted in the English-speaking world, where either the role of the state as such or the role of the state control, especially in education, faces still considerable skepticism. The actual process of policy borrowing between different educational systems has been rather complex and differentiated. That the man himself had stressed in 1844 that the US should copy the positive aspects of the Prussian system, but not adopt Prussia's obedience to the authorities. And one of the important differences is that in the German tradition, there is stronger reference to the state as an important principle, as introduced, for example, by Hegel's philosophy of the state, which is in opposition to the Anglo-American contract-based idea of the state. Okay. Legacy. After 1945, current debates, Prussian legacy. So this is all like a lot of German influence. I don't know.
A system which is developed specifically.
Destroying free will. So that AZ quotes. Who's
with the intention of destroying.
With the intention of destroying one's free will. Johann Gottlieb Fichte. Johann. Fichte was a German philosopher in 1814. German idealism, which developed from the theoretical and ethical writings of Immanuel Kant. Recently, philosophers and scholars have begun to appreciate Fichte. Okay. Stuff. Economics, nationalism. Fichte was used by the Nazis. Central theory. Self-consciousness was a social phenomenon. Intersubjectivity. Like, this is really, really, like... So, apparently he is the architect of the Prussian model. But, yeah, I'm just... Oh, here we go. Fichte had urged in 1807 the Prussian military Fichte asked for the shaping of personality of students. The citizens should be made able and willing to use their own minds to achieve higher goals in the framework of a future unified German nation-state. Tried to circumvent the nobility's resistance to a common German nation-state. The nationhood without needing a state, but based on a common language, musical compositions, and songs. I'm just looking for this quote. Okay. I would love to see. The fuck is this? Fuck is all of this sort of stuff? Where is the rest of the quote? As Bertrand Russell summarized Fichte. Okay. What? So, okay. Um, um, well, we should undertake to cultivate and produce on contrary strict necessity. Strict necessity and the opposite being impossible, such a will can henceforth be relied on with. Wait, New Education must consist essentially in this, that it completely destroys freedom of will in the soil which it undertakes to cultivate and produces on the contrary strict necessity in the decisions of the will, the opposite being impossible. That doesn't sound like the quote. Egalitarian. Okay. 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 Sorry. I had to read a lot here. It was a great founding tradition to appeal to the student's free will. I should imply that the very reckoning free will in the person may state compulsion, not freedom, is best for students. On the other hand, the new education must consist essentially that it destroys freedom of will in the soil which it undertakes to cultivate and produces, on the contrary, strict necessity in the decisions of the will. In the decisions of the will, the opposite being impossible, such a will can henceforth be relied upon with confidence and certainty. So yeah. The point of this wasn't to, like, there's problems with this. This is very very much industrialized educational system. So the idea that of preparing children for labor later on in life, which is what we do have now. But it's very interesting that it's been twisted. Like, this is not a quote from Johann Gottlieb Fichte. For one thing, to start with, this is not. This is the quote. This is his original quote, and then And then this is how it's been rewritten. It has been his original quote was translated to, "The new education must consist essentially in this, that it completely destroys freedom of will in the soil which it takes to cultivate, and produces, on the contrary, strict necessity in the decisions of the will, the opposite being impossible. Such a will can henceforth be relied upon with confidence and certainty." And it's been rewritten by other people as Fichte laid it down that education should aim at destroying free will, so that after pupils have left school, they shall be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as their schoolmasters would have wished. I don't know about you, but that seems like a bit of a stretch. Like, I do not know much about Johann Gottlieb Fichte. I definitely don't. From the sounds of things, it sounds like there's a lot of complicated philosophy going on here. When it comes down to it, that, yeah, just that this was this is being attributed to the guy. Yeah, all education is a form of indoctrination, but don't tell conservatives that. Oh wait, you are a conservative. Uh-oh. Oh no. It sounds to me like, honestly, from what I've read and the context surrounding it, it sounds to me that he advocated for a standardized system of teaching, basically. Not the destruction of free will as a general rule and to be controlled. That sounds like a thing that was added later on by people who had a particular bone to pick with philosophers. So yeah, fucking hell, that was like pulling teeth. So let's go on and see what he says about it.
And individuality in order to make them live.
Yeah, so and not only is he pulling up this quote, he's also adding his own spin on it to ruin individuality and to ruin critical thinking. I'm sorry, but didn't say anything about those things.
Skeptical of authority and obedient to the state. PBS, being a state-funded media outlet, is run by the CIA under Operation Mockingbird, and the former director...
Wait, what? What? PBS. Wait, what the fuck? Whoa. PBS... The fuck is PBS? Wait, is he talking about the news stuff? What? Wait, what? Wait, what? This sounds like a conspiracy theory. Wait, is he literally putting just conspiracy theories in his video? Like, it's nothing. What? Yeah, well, PBS is state media, but he's literally saying now that the CIA runs the PBS. To which I say, fucking what? All this. Oh, for fuck's sake, there is no. People are just using this quote. Alright, like, I don't give a fuck. This guy's just lying. Unless he fucking brings up some fucking proof for this.
Run by the CIA under Operation Mockingbird and the former director
Is an alleged. You know what, fuck you, I'm going on to Wikipedia because, like, is an alleged large-scale program of the CIA that began in the early years of the Cold War and attempted to manipulate news media, according to author Deborah Davis. Operation Mockingbird recruited leading American journalists into a propaganda network and influenced the operations of Front Group. So the conspiracy theory doesn't even say that the CIA is in control of PBS. Come on, dude. What the fuck? Oh, hey! QAnon is involved in this. Yeah! And the Washington Post.
of the CIA, William Casey, who was at one point in charge of running Operation Mockingbird, which controlled all mainstream media in the United States, one state.
What? So fucking every fucking time now. Every time now. Every fucking time. I'm no longer going to look up any more shit that this guy states. It's all bullshit.
So on top of the fact that both of the things he's attempting to defend here are inherently designed to make people ignorant by destroying their ability to think, constructing false paradigms for them to operate within to try and ensure that they will never be able to think, and to make people blindly obedient to authority.
What do you are literally describing what you're doing right now. What do you think QAnon is?
They all require the forceful confiscation of the individual's own property to fund
No. That's not communism. Communism is the confiscation of private property, not personal property. Fuck's sake, go read a book.
Product of their own agency and human actions, an extension of their
Nothing but Wikipedia and fucking AZ quotes.
individuality. I could go on, but the bottom line here is that Thought Slime is a complete charlatan whose arguments always consist of two things. Know You, where he attempts to project the flaws with his own beliefs onto his opponents. It's painfully obvious when he's doing this because he'll always attempt to redefine words or make false equivalences which don't even make sense when you're high enough on pure ideology to be a Marxist in a ham-fisted
Here we go. Finally, he's going to show some proof.
attempt to equate two entirely different things. Or in response to critics when his indolent attempts to create arguments inevitably self-immolate because of how straightforward and obvious it is that he has absolutely no fucking idea what he's talking about, he'll start completely shitting himself and just insult himself or parade around the criticisms he's receiving ironically. He does this because he thinks that if he insults
I need that fucking button.
himself with the
I need that
criticisms he's
button.
receiving, that his critics will leave him alone because he'll have created the impression that their criticisms somehow have less merit because he ironically parrots the same arguments to self-deprecate. The problem is that he receives so much criticism that he actually resorts to self-deprecation more than he actually does creating arguments in the first place. Hell, his avatar is wearing a t-shirt which reads King Cuck.
It's just a joke, bro. Why are you so mad?
So instead of having the intended effect of manipulating his audience and critics through reverse psychology, it instead just amplifies the arguments of his critics and just makes him look like a spurging retard with no answers to the things he's being criticized with. So
all you can do is resort to ableism. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
okay, why did I make a video in response to Thought Slime if it's so easy to refute one of his arguments that I could literally debunk an entire video of his within a single paragraph of my script? You may be
Why don't you do that? Why don't you fucking do that?
asking. And this is a fair question, but that's because I'm not making a video necessarily to respond to Thought Slime, but to a point
Exactly. He can't. He's not responding to Thought Slime's videos because he can't provide an argument against it. All he can do is call him slurs. And look up Wikipedia quotes which have nothing to do with Thought Slime. Like, I just spent like half an hour going through shit and found out that he came up with like an attributed quote which was misquoted.
he attempts
azquotes.com is this guy's reference.
And collectivism.
The right presents itself as individualist, the defender of personal freedoms. They like to frame the left as collectivist. The left, they say, only cares about the common good and ignores the personal freedom of the individual. That's often how both groups are modeled along an axis by right-wingers. This model has become so prevalent that even people on the left have started adopting it. But it's wrong. It's wrong, though.
The right are rugged individualists who must conform to the following criteria or be purged. The left don't care about individuals, they're collectivists. They're unique, precious little snowflakes that only care about themselves. That proves they're collectivists.
So is this guy's debunking is just a picture of a cave head in like overlaid on the top of Thought Slime's video. That's it basically.
I think the choice between individualism and collectivism is kind of a false dichotomy. Pretty much by definition, that which is good for the collective must be good for most individuals. Because all collectives are made up of individuals, and all individuals are part of some larger collective. The right would have you believe that if things were economically more fair, that would...
that is the point. Communism and anarchy is the group, is the collective raising the individual. The only other alternative is the individual raising up the capitalist.
Be bad for you individually, but that's only really true if you're part of the very small group of people who own most of everything. Otherwise, your percentage of things would go up.
Oh my god, I am so sorry for subjecting you to that. But this explanation of, and attempts to argue against or in favor of individualism and collectivism respectively on display, amazingly manages to encapsulate every single thing which is wrong with how this topic is seen and consequently discussed in mainstream politics, which is the reason why I've decided to even mention Slime Boy today. What I love here, though, really quick, is how Thought Slime just inadvertently refuted the left-right dichotomy by fallaciously attempting to equate libertarians and objectivists with paleocons or neocons under the label right-wing, so that
So you missed the point of the video then. You just assumed that Thought Slime was making an argument for the left-right dichotomy instead of that's what you said earlier. You said that Thought Slime conforms to that. The video you put in as an example completely refutes that argument.
Individualist philosophy is equated with statist collectivism, which is only cosmetically different from what he believes in. In mainstream discussion,
He wasn't talking about statist collectivism, he was talking about collectivism as an abstract term. You need to go into this and understand the context rather than taking what you are projecting from the argument onto another person.
philosophies generally are equated with others which have fundamental principles that directly contradict one another because of the left-right dichotomy. He also tried to claim that collectivists think no one should be forced to associate with groups and should be able to express themselves as an extension of their own agency, and that the individualists are the ones who want to coerce people or force them into groups against their will, which... What? Yeah, refer to what I mentioned earlier regarding his debate style of just pulling no U's and projecting.
Didn't say that at
But
all.
whether they're Republicans, Democrats, alt-right, or Marxist, most people other than libertarians seem to consistently get this point wrong, and those whom I've seen discuss this issue almost universally have a false notion as to what it means to be an individualist or a collectivist. And Thought Slime expresses the most common understanding of these two philosophies, that individualism is the notion of freedom being the individual atomizing themselves, and collectivism being about people associating within groups and working together. Sometimes this varies slightly, like Sargon of Akkad, for example, who claims to be an individualist and believes that government programs, such as the NHS, are individualist because they, quote, benefit the individual, basically just flipping Thought Slime's conclusion on its head. But no, both of these are complete misunderstandings or misrepresentations of the ideas in question. So, a collectivist is someone who argues that rights can only apply to certain groups within society because individuals need to form associations in order for society to function, and the individual rights can only apply to certain groups within society because individuals need to form associations in order for society to function, and the individual rights consequently don't carry the necessary explanatory power to justify themselves, as according apply to certain groups within society because individuals need to form associations in order for society to function, and the individual rights consequently don't carry the necessary explanatory power to justify themselves, as according to the collectivist, the individual's rights are exclusionary to the fulfillment of the group's interests, and therefore oppress the group and society as a whole. Of the group's interests, and therefore oppress the group and society as a whole. And
What? I had to listen to that a couple of times because that was a word salad which made like little sense. Like this is this is an example of someone who likes to say complicated paragraphs without actually saying anything. So like this is basically him saying
consequently don't carry the necessary explanatory.
He's basically saying that he's basically explaining the rights of the many outweigh the few. This guy needs dressing for his word salad. Well, I mean, the dressing would be like citations, which, you know, thanks for reminding me, like nothing here. Ultimately, what we've got here is his opinion of collectivism. So, like, rather than engaging with Thought Slime's argument on what he believes collectivism to be, this man's just doing the etymological argument. So, I've got a theory.
Power to just individual need to form associate to certain. So, a collectivist understandings.
Wait. What? Are you telling me that there's more than one version of collectivism?
My glasses.
I'm just wondering where he got his definition from. Sorry?
You see my glasses?
I have not. No, sorry. Then, not out there?
No.
Last time I remember you talking about them was when you were looking at the magic cards.
I was wearing them when I came in.
Did they accidentally fall in here? Side there?
Oh, yeah.
Found them? Woo!
Alrighty.
Okay. I just have never heard. I think you're welcome. I've never heard collectivism like explained that that way. And the interesting is just like the interesting part of this. An economic system in which the means of production and distribution are owned and controlled by the people collectively. The practice or principle of giving a group priority over each individual in it. Where is he getting his definition of this? I expected it to be like a Wikipedia quote, but like he says that it's a complete misunderstanding, yet everything Thought Slime said like is consistent with all of like the shit that I just looked up then. I know I said I'd stop looking things up, but it's Wikipedia. That's just as good as it's not looking things up anyway.
Or misrepresentations of the ideas in question. So, a collectivist is someone who argues that rights can only apply to certain groups within society.
Rights can only apply to certain groups within society? What does that mean? Like, only apply to certain groups? That's... Collectivism isn't that. Like, why are you saying, like... What the fuck do you mean? To certain groups? Which groups? What groups are you talking about? As far as I know, collectivism is state power handled by the people. Collectivism is the individuals having a fucking say over the means of production. That's what collectivism is. Collectivism is what you do in a community. When one person falls down, the community picks them up. It's raising the individual within a community to be able to support themselves and to support others. That is the point of collectivism versus individualism. Individualism just basically says, dog eat dog, you know, like, oh, you gotta work hard. You fucking... What?
Because individuals need to form associations in order for society to function. And the
Also, you got a picture of Stalin. You're putting yourself on a picture of Stalin here. Stalin wasn't a collectivist. I guess you can call it bureaucratic collectivism. But that's a different thing again, where bureaucratic collectivism is the control of state power by the bureaucracy and not by the people. You've got a hierarchy there. And isn't what the type of collectivism, aka anarchic collectivism, that Thought Slime was talking about earlier? You've just cherry-picked a definition which you like, which contradicts someone else's definition, instead of engaging with someone else's definition. Like, this isn't debunking an argument. This is just fucking pedantry. This is simply pedantry and dressing it up in fucking word salad.
individual rights consequently don't carry the necessary explanatory power to justify themselves, as according...
It's basically saying, this is basically the big-brained ANCAP argument, where collectivism removes the rights of the individual. And I mean, yeah, fucking, that's right. Do you know what rights are? And again, we move back into the argument of objective truth and subjective truth, because there is no objective fucking rights that we are born with. We are not born with inalienable rights. When you're a baby, you don't have rights other than that which the collective has decided upon. There is always a collective. The only question is, do you have any power over the collective? Because collectivism, anarchic collectivism, is one of the only systems, one of the only philosophical ideas with regards to political organization, which gives you, as an individual, the power to actually affect change over the collective. The collective is there. Society will exist, with or without you. Society will agree on what's right or wrong, whether you participate or not. If you participate in society, you might have more of a say. And if you participate in a society which engages in anarchic collectivism, like what Thought Slime advocates for, you will have more of a say. Individualism, ironically, throws away all of your rights. Yeah, yeah. Stop using freedom in a way I don't like. Like, what a fucking straw man position though, right? Like this is what he gives instead of a attribution to his definition. He's unable to back his own words up. And so he resorts to just calling an ADHD non-binary person an ableist slur, dropping the R slur at someone who's ADHD. That's a pretty shit thing to do. I'm sorry, not sorry. I'm such a great anarchist, that's why I spend all my time whining about capitalism instead of the state. Yeah. Anarchy and capitalism are both mutually exclusive. You dumb fucking...
To the collectivist, the individual's rights are exclusionary to the fulfillment of the group's interests, and therefore oppress the group and society as a whole. And
No, the collective group lifts up. The idea of collectivism is structuring society in which the collective lifts up the individual. It is more about the individual than individualisms are.
Individualist is someone who argues that rights can only apply to individuals because the existence of agency can be objectively demonstrated and necessarily implies self-ownership.
This is what I'm talking about. You can't argue with people like this. They don't need to bring up facts because they believe that self-ownership and rights are things which can be objectively demonstrated. They say that without ever objectively demonstrating it. Just like Fabian tried to pull like you're being nice to me right now, therefore it's objective that, the non-aggression principle exists. I'm like, no, I'm being nice to you because that's benefiting me at the time. Like if it benefited me to be like nasty to you, then like I'd be nasty to you. They think that they believe in an objective truth, an objective, unchangeable truth. And the problem with that is that there is no objective truth. It's always about what we agree on. Even individualism. Individualism is only a definition because we've agreed on what the words mean, because we agreed on what the philosophy means. It's all subjective.
The conclusion of which being that individuals rightfully own the product of their own actions. According to the individual...
And also some fucking proof would be nice.
Group rights do not have the necessary explanatory power to justify their existence, since there is no such entity or creature as a group or a society, because all groups and societies are simply a collection of different individuals. Because groups cannot naturally be demonstrated to exist and only exist if individuals create them, this necessarily means that they don't.
Why does that necessarily mean that they don't? Groups will just... Wait, this motherfucker thinks that, like, society will stop existing if we choose to, like, just each go our own way. What? How do I even start with this? Groups can't be proven to exist because they're made up of individuals? There's always more than one there's always a community, there's always a society. What are you talking about? These guys are stuck on Coconut Island with, like, by themselves. This is the degree that these people will go to in order to, like, convince themselves that objective reality, like objective truths exist. I gotta listen to this again. This is amazing.
Because
this is
groups
amazing.
cannot naturally be demonstrated as a group or a society existence, since there is no such entity or creature as a group or a society.
Where?
Because
How do you make that many leaps of faith? I don't even know, like... Do you think we would have... Do these people think that Minecraft is fucking real? Oh, yeah, it's a reference to the Vorsh coconut thing, but yeah. These people think that Minecraft is real. These people think that you can go outside, punch a tree, and create your own shit. These people think that you can choose not to participate in society in today's age. These people are living in a fucking fantasy. This is the same as a fundamentalist Christian. They believe in their god, which is fucking Minecraft. They believe they live in fucking Minecraft on Coconut Island, where you can like find a pig and fucking hell. Oh my gosh.
Groups and societies are simply a collection of different individuals. Because
like, he says that groups and societies don't exist, and then he describes what a group and a society is. You just disproved your own point. The cognitive dissonance with this.
groups cannot naturally be demonstrated to exist and only exist if individuals create them, this necessarily means that...
Oh, and also, like, here's another point as well. Like, the idea that only exist if individuals create them. This stems from the other sort of like fundamentalist, like objective truth idea. I don't know. I need to find out what word or phrase talks about these things, because I usually conflate, fundamentalist Christians like ANCAPs and all of these like far right conservatives who believe in objective truth. I need to find a way to call that, because objectivist means something else. Objectivist would be the perfect word to use, but it means something else. So, people like this who believe in objective truth, right? They also believe that that nothing exists unless there is intent behind it. So he's saying that groups only exist and society only exists if individuals actively choose to create them, ignoring the fact that societies and groups naturally form from individuals. They are not an active creation process. When a pride of lions, gets together, like, you don't have a bunch of individual lions like run into a field together, set up some plans, and we're like, all right, this is how we're going to organize our society. No, this is a naturally forming process. This is something that naturally forms. It's almost like biological. It's something which is nature. It's not something which is nurture. It is something which we just do. Whether we like it or not, society exists. You cannot run away from the fucking law because you live in a country which has laws where people have subjectively decided to agree one thing is good or bad. You can't just turn your back on society, which is what these people believe. They believe that as soon as they choose not to participate in society, that it doesn't exist. They fucking believe that Minecraft exists. And you can't argue with them, because they believe in an objective truth, and as soon as you argue with them, it's as if you're telling them God doesn't exist. So you're immediately just going to get pushback. Easiest thing to do with these people is just explain to the viewers, like, how dumb their arguments are. Like, it's amazing how I will give him kudos for this. He's very good at putting together fancy sounding sentences. Like, sometimes I'll have to listen to them a few times to actually fucking get what he's saying. But is that a good thing? Like, who is he trying to convince here? Is he trying to convince the average person that he's right, or is he trying to sound smarter than he is? I don't think that most people attempt to sound smarter than they are. I think that's a straw man argument. Doesn't matter the intent. The result is a word salad that doesn't make sense and doesn't convince anyone who doesn't agree with you. Right? And it also protects you from criticism because you can then turn around. This is like a Jordan Peterson thing. All right, I'm bringing in all the tropes here. We've got objective truth. We've got fucking word salad. We got the Peterson fucking. I even brought in Coconut Island. I'm fucking getting all the references today. But he does the Jordan Peterson where he says large words, and substitutes things for other things, and plants red herrings within his sentences, which are dependent upon the listener to create a connection to the subject material. And because they didn't have any meaning in the first place, other than to be a red herring, and again, it doesn't matter what the intent is, this is what ends up happening. And you can see it again and again and again with Jordan Peterson and other people like this guy, who make flowery words and red herring sentences. Because the red herring sentences are there for people like me to jump in and say, hold on, wait, what are you saying there? That's not right. And then in return, someone like this can turn around and say, oh, that's not what I meant. You're taking me out of context. You're clip chimping me. Right? That's what it's all like there. That's what ends up happening. And it's not done on purpose. I don't think that Jordan Peterson or this guy are smart. I think that, what is it called? They're called ints. What are they called? IBIs. He's an IBI. Intelligent, but idiotic.
They don't have natural rights. Since groups don't have natural rights, or don't even naturally exist, all attempts to establish rights...
Nobody has natural rights. And also saying that groups don't naturally exist. Also, like, you can literally look at nature. To look at this, like I brought up lions and prides. Show me the human society. So show me the human being who does not participate in some form of society, and who has no connection to any society, that was born, that began existence on this planet at any time separate. Yeah, I think another one. I need to find one. I'm sorry. Like, I wish I had all of these things ready. I should. But if we're talking, like, here we go. Let's let someone explain how societies exist.
Tell us about the lobster.
Well, that's quite a segue. Well, the first chapter I have in my book is called Stand Up Straight with Your Shoulders Back. And it's an injunction to be combative, not least to further your career, let's say, but also to adopt a stance of ready engagement with the world. And to
also, I need to clip, like,
and the reason that I
tell us about the lobster.
About lobsters is because there's this idea that hierarchical structures are a sociological construct of the Western patriarchy. And that is so untrue that it's almost unbelievable. And I use the lobster as an example because the lobster, we divulged from lobsters in evolutionary history about 350 million years ago, common ancestor. And lobsters exist in hierarchies and have a nervous system attuned to the hierarchy. And that nervous system runs on serotonin, just like our nervous systems do. And the nervous system of the lobster and of the human being is so similar that antidepressants work on lobsters. And it's part of my attempt to demonstrate that the idea of hierarchy has absolutely nothing to do with sociocultural construction, which it doesn't.
Let me just get straight. You're saying that we
That's right, motherfuckers. I just used Jordan Peterson to support my fucking argument. against an ANCAP. Thank you very much. You're welcome. What Jordan Peterson explained there is how groups naturally exist and are a part of our biology and our neurology. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jordan Peterson, for that. Finally, you're doing some good work.
Rights for groups must be both arbitrary and positivist, meaning that the group's rights are ultimately going to be dictated by a centralized monopoly on arbitration and require forced association and theft of the individual's products of their agency, which is basically a nice way of saying slavery. For the most part, I think.
Wait,
that
what?
false
Hold on a
interpretations of
second.
belief
I
systems
was
must
zoned
be
out there. I had a cold/flu moment there. This
and
is
require
wait.
forced association.
Hold on,
All
yeah,
attempts
okay.
to establish rights for groups must be both arbitrary and positivist, meaning that the group's rights
Establish rights for groups. What the fuck are you talking
are
about?
ultimately going to be dictated by a centralized monopoly on arbitration and require forced association and theft of the individual's products of their agency, which is basically a nice way of saying slavery. For the most part, I think.
What? Okay, so like he's basically saying that if you're not allowed to sell your goods for money, people are stealing them from you. No, I'm not going to engage with this one even. Like, that one just gets a... That's just not how... He's just described how groups work. Earth is not Minecraft. You cannot walk outside and punch a tree and not participate in society. You're living a fantasy. I'm sorry, your God does not exist. I know you're not going to believe me, and you're going to push back against that and drop the R slur and probably the T slur at me. Or, most likely ignore me completely because I'm a tiny fucking streamer. But we don't live in a video game. We can't build our own society as an individual. We rely on other people for society. You can't build your own car. And even under anarcho-capitalism, as you call it, or more effective term, feudalism, people still need to work together to build things. You can't build an entire house by yourself outside of society. That doesn't happen. I'm sorry.
That these false interpretations of the two belief systems is mostly due to just innocent misunderstanding, because on top of the mainstream political discussion in the media generally lacking nuance and being deliberately structured around sound bites and rhetoric, these core principles are identified as individualism and collectivism. Since individual and collective are the active function of these words, and those words themselves are pretty vague without proper context, it's easy to see why.
And ThoughtSlime gave them context within his discussion, which you did not engage with in that video at all.
People would associate collectivism with just any sort of group associations, and individualism with atomization. But yes, there are collectivist sophists like ThoughtSlime who will deliberately attempt to spread false information and poison the well in order to try and make their belief system seem more reasonable, and to strawman individualism to make it seem less so. And the reason that the media parrots this same collectivist jargon is undoubtedly for the exact same.
The media parrots the same jargon? Or are you talking about the CIA-controlled media that you, again... I need to get that button, by the way. I just need
reason,
it.
such as the social contract, or using class identity politics as a justification for stealing more privately produced resources. So, no, being an individualist does not mean that you want to live as a hermit in the middle of the woods, and being a collectivist
Talk about straw man arguments, eh?
is not simply associating with people in groups. As for how both of these positions stand up to scrutiny, well, I think I've already sufficiently demonstrated the absurd.
Well, collectivism as a general concept is exactly how you described it. Unless you are talking about a specific form of collectivism which you have not defined as a part of your argument. Thought Slime? Yeah, oh, I think we've got more than that. I'm going to get a copyright strike, I swear, at this point. This is going to be most of the fucking video.
And unethical nature of the collectivist's principles. But the problem with collectivism from a pragmatic point of view is that, as noted earlier, it assumes that society and groups have a singular interest, as if society is a singular entity you can point to which has one sole function, and can
Okay, so like I don't exist as an intersectional feminist then.
demonstrate the needs and interests of. The problem is that each individual has their own interests shaped by their own human actions and preferences.
Like this is just a straw man argument of these things. Like Thought Slime has literally said nothing. Like what is this? 1455, all right? Let me just write that I'm going to write that in chat so I don't forget. 1455 so we can come back to it, all right? All right, I'm going to play that fucking clip again. I'm going to play that fucking clip again, right? Of Thought Slime. And we'll see we'll see like how many times how many points that Thought Slime made in this video that have anything to do with this.
Presents
Okay.
itself as individualist, the defender of personal freedoms. They like to frame the left as collectivist. The left, they say, only cares about the common good and ignores the personal freedom of the individual. That's often how both groups are modeled along an axis by right-wingers. This model has become so prevalent that even people on the left have started adopting it. But it's wrong. It's wrong, though.
The right are rugged individualists who must
So like at this point, right? So he's talking about how there is this perceived dichotomy between collectivism and individualism, where the right is all about the rugged individualist, whereas the left is all about the collective, like imposing their feelings on the individual. Like that is what he's saying exists at the moment, right? That's his claim. Thought Slime's claim is that there is a perception amongst people who believe in the left-right dichotomy that individualism is on the right and collectivism is on the left, and the individualism lifts up the individual, whereas the collectivism pushes down the individual. Okay, and then from that, his hypothesis is that dichotomy doesn't really exist because the collective lifts up the individual's rights more effectively than the so-called individualist. And it doesn't really fit on a left-right dichotomy in the way that especially Western media purports it to. Those are the claims made in this video, right? Now we're moving towards stuff that's it. That's all he's claimed.
The woods, and being a collectivist is not simply associating with people in groups. There are collectivist sophists like Thought Slime who will deliberately attempt to spread false information and poison the well in order to try and make their belief system seem more reasonable, and to strawman individualism to make it seem less so. And the reason that the media parrots this same collectivist jargon is undoubtedly for the exact same reason, such as the social contract, or using class identity politics as a justification for stealing more.
So he's just brought up class and identity politics as something which was apparently part of Thought Slime's argument there. Like, what has that got to do with it? Like, you're bringing up... I would not be surprised. He's probably a spesmerins.
Produced resources. So, no. Being an individualist does not mean that you want to live as a hermit in the middle of the woods, and being a collectivist is not simply associating with people in groups.
And that's exactly... So you agree with Thought Slime then? So you agree with Thought Slime then? What's the issue here?
As for how both of these positions stand up to scrutiny...
What did Thought Slime lie about?
Well, I think I've already sufficiently demonstrated the absurdity and unethical nature of the collectivists' principles. But the problem with collectivism...
No, you haven't. You've come up with a straw man argument based on a faith-based belief in inalienable rights, which can't be proven to exist objectively. You cannot, because you simply because you cannot demonstrate objective truth. Can't demonstrate it. It can't be demonstrated. It can only be agreed upon as a collective.
From a pragmatic point of view is that, as noted earlier, it assumes that society and groups have a singular interest, as if society is a singular entity you can point to which has one sole function and can demonstrate the needs and interests of. The problem is that each individual has their own interests shaped by their own human actions and preferences. TLDR, there is no such thing as social utility because utility only exists as a result of the individual's marginal preferences.
Again, keep explaining how groups exist while, like, being unable to escape.
Therefore, individual human actions will always exist that undermine the central planners, and central planning of the economy will necessarily always fail because there's simply no way to properly allocate resources without market signals.
Okay, then why are planned economies the most successful corporations today? What would you call Amazon if not a planned economy? What would you call Microsoft if not a planned economy? Are you telling me these things are democratic?
Even without full central planning, state intervention only creates artificial scarcity and makes society less stable.
ANCAPs are basically, I just want to smoke weed.
Could go more into detail, but that itself is an entire video's worth of subject matter, so I'll just provide links in the description to resources on the economics of collectivism.
Oh, YouTube videos. Oh. So he's referencing himself. Okay. Sorry, that's gonna get a big from me. It's totally the government that causes the artificial scarcity, totally not the corporations trying to keep their prices up.
But as a result, collectivist societies...
Why is it so easy to point out corporations that do that create artificial scarcity, but not easy to show governments that do that? In fact, the first thing that comes to mind is under Canadian healthcare, the opposite. The Canadian healthcare system, correct me if I'm wrong, but for medications and drugs, they perform a process which is the opposite of artificial scarcity, in which they buy all of the items at a higher price and then sell them back to the public at a lower price, like circumventing the artificial scarcity system. And on the other side, we've got diamonds and emeralds and precious jewels and resources which are constantly made scarce. Yeah. Done randomly. Yeah, stop having me defend the Western corporate governments because they're not as horrible as corporations. Fucking hell, this always happens with ANCAPs. This fucking always happens. It's hilarious. It makes anarchists defend the state, and it makes conservatives defend anarchism. It's fucking hilarious. Yeah, the diamond market is literally a scam. Yeah.
must be as authoritarian as possible, and even then they're incredibly unsustainable and living conditions will be incredibly harsh. None of these problems, though.
How are things going in Brazil right now, under capitalism?
are characteristic of individualist anarchies. Most of the problems with collectivism stem from what it inherently seeks to do in the first place, which is attempting to differentiate the individual from society which they exist in from an ethical standpoint, where only
No.
society as a group has rights, and to disregard the individual entirely. The
No?
concept of group rights itself creates a performative contradiction. Groups are only a collection of individuals created as a result of those individuals' human action and agency. So how can something which consists only of
You just described what a group is! And collectivism is perfectly, like... Collectivism is perfectly consistent with that, you fucking idiot!
individuals with individual rights be different from individuals?
Okay, there you go, there you go. He believes in individual rights as an objective fact.
And
Because I'm not kidding, the reason why they made diamonds to be for your special persons is because people were worried they would sell off their diamonds and flood the market, showing that it's not rare. Yeah, like diamond engagement rings were an advertising campaign post World War II. You're welcome.
Based on a separate ethical structure, then what could be demonstrated
They've been traditional for less than 100 years.
As a result of those individuals' agency, and consequently, since the fundamental premise of collectivism is flawed, everything which stems from it will be flawed.
The thing is, though, he is describing something which is not consistent with anarchic collectivism. He's literally arguing with a straw man for this entire video. And I pointed that out right at the start.
Anyway, that's all for today's video. If you liked it, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.
Oh my gosh, wow. Alright, so we've got people talking about Canthal Tilt. People... Wow. Just tried to murder his whole audience by showing that thing. Okay, yeah. Okay. The state protects private property. Oh my gosh, fucking hell. Ah! Yeah. He learns the more classically liberal, the public education argument is kind of wacky, taking the intentions of the Prussian education system and assuming it's the intention of every modern public. Then, yeah. Yeah, Joshua Allgood has it right here. It's a fucking it's a non sequitur. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see if I can get some attention. Cool. Whew. Once more for good luck.
Tell us about the lobster.